VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
Thank you for joining us on Crosstalk for a News Roundup Friday, News Roundup and Commentary Friday here on the broadcast as much as possible. Like to hold these programs on Friday to gather together stories from the week, and friends, it becomes near impossible to whittle things down because there is so much taking place during any given week. Of course, this week the emphasis on what's going on with Iran and Israel, and also we see the so-called pride taking place all across this nation, and just the impact that is having from this as well. We'll have a number of stories here today that certainly understand that we are in perilous times. And as Paul told Timothy, he said, preach the word. And friends, that's what we need to do in times just like this. It's only the life-changing message of the gospel that will truly change the heart of mankind. Certainly, we're watching with great interest what is taking place in Israel and Iran and the so-called peace talks as well. And so thank you, Sandy, for gathering so much information here through the course of this week. From Newsmax.com, Israel's military said today that its forces struck targets throughout southern Lebanon overnight as Hezbollah reported intense fighting in the area. Lebanon's state-run national news agency reported at least 16 people were killed in the Israeli airstrikes. The attacks came as planned talks in Switzerland between Iran and the U.S. over their efforts to reach a permanent end to the Iran war were delayed. NBC News reporting Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah agreed to a ceasefire today. The ceasefire was meant to start at 4 p.m. local time. That was 9 a.m. Eastern our time. The intensified strikes came days after an interim U.S.-Iran agreement was signed stipulating that all fighting on all fronts, including Lebanon, must end immediately. But the new Israeli strikes in Lebanon cast doubts on the deal to end the war, and Vice President Vance canceled his planned travel to Switzerland. Tehran asked for guarantees that hostilities in Lebanon would end, as outlined in the deal signed with Washington, and mediators were working to resolve that issue, a diplomat said. Keep in mind, Israel was not any part of the negotiation process. The New York Post reporting newly revealed details of that memorandum that came out this week. Several of the points there: Iran, the U.S., and allies would stop fighting across the region, including in Lebanon. Tehran would affirm its pledge never to build a nuclear weapon. U.S. and Iran would work out what happens to Tehran's enriched uranium stockpile. The U.S. would lift its naval blockade, hold off on new sanctions. Iran would guarantee safe toll-free passage for commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz for some 60 days. A final deal reached after the 60 days would see the U.S. withdraw its forces within 30 days and lift all sanctions on Iran. It would pave the way for a $300 billion reconstruction fund for Iran, and the U.S. would allow Iran to resume oil sales through temporary sanction waivers. So that's part of the deal there. The Gatestone Institute reports a first reaction to President Trump's Memorandum of Understanding has already come from Tehran's terrorist proxy Hamas. To Hamas and the rest of Iran's axis of resistance, the prospect of a deal between Washington and Iran is not being interpreted as a sign of American strength, but as a sign of America's weakness, they report. A victory for the Iranian regime, which the U.S. defeated, and proof that the U.S. is eager to end conflicts at virtually any price. The world has been expecting to hear the U.S. announce that unless Iran accepted all of America's terms unconditionally, the ceasefire was over. Instead, the U.S. has agreed in principle to Iran's terms. America has deliberately chosen to lose a war again, they report. Hamas's officials and spokesmen have therefore been intensifying their calls for Palestinians to increase what they call all forms of resistance and confront Israelis throughout the West Bank. So, in essence, this Iran deal is emboldening Hamas at this time to stand up and tougher. Newsmax.com, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Esmail Baghai on Thursday took a victory lap with the newly signed Memorandum of Understanding between Iran and the U.S., declaring that his country defeated 2 nuclear powers. He said, "We truly are a superpower." He said the agreement preserves Iran's ballistic missile program, which is a major win for the Iranians. Worthy News is reporting the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, avowed with an agreement or without an agreement, Iran will not have nuclear weapons, not today, not tomorrow. Netanyahu told reporters in the first press conference in 3 months, "As long as I am Prime Minister of Israel, it will not happen." He declined to criticize President Trump directly, saying the two leaders often agree but do not always see eye to eye. He is the U.S. president. I'm the Israeli prime minister, Netanyahu said. I'm responsible for Israel's security interests. I stand up for them. Well, coming from All Israel News, President Trump insisted the Iran deal can survive IDF strikes on Hezbollah and Lebanon, while saying he is not happy with how Israel has fought. He said he believes Syria could do a better job of defeating Hezbollah, and also mentioned that expressing frustration with Israel for the strikes that came just hours before the signed agreement. But he was asked specifically by reporters in regard to Israel, and here's the question and his response.
Are you frustrated with Netanyahu, sir?
No. We had a great relationship. We're talking about some end details. I didn't like that he did an attack based on there's a very minor little thing with some drones that were released, and he ends up doing I saw that attack. I saw where that bomb went. Did you see what happened? That was too much. You can do too much also. But we've had a very effective relationship. Without the United States, there would be no Israel. Without me, there would be no Israel, because no other president was willing to do what I did. I've had a great relationship with Bibi, but now Bibi has to be more responsible with respect to Lebanon.
Without the United States, there would be no Israel. Without me, President Trump said, there would be no Israel. U.S. ambassador, by the way, his scripture says, he that keeps Israel, it's referring to God, will neither slumber nor sleep. He's the one who keeps Israel. But U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee took part in an international conference on Israeli heritage in Judea and Samaria on Tuesday, where he delivered remarks that appeared to highlight historical and religious connections between the United States and Israel. And his comments came just shortly after remarks by President Trump, in which President Trump said, "Without me, there'd be no Israel, because no other president was willing to do what I did." And while Huckabee did not directly reference the statement from President Trump, he emphasized that the heritage being discussed, and listen to what Mike Huckabee had to say.
It's also my job to represent the importance of Israel to the United States. This is just another reminder that it is your heritage without a doubt. But, Minister, it is also the heritage of the United States. Without Israel, without the Jewish foundation, there would not be an America. We owe our very existence to what happened in this land.
Isn't that something? He said without Israel, there would not be an America, that we owe our existence, to this land. And, wow, quite a contrast in statements there. Here we have from CBN News in a one-on-one interview, Vice President J.D. Vance told CBN News the looming agreement with Iran would be good for both America and Israel, although questions remain about whether Iran can really be trusted. The vice president addressed that skepticism and took on critics who say America needs to finish the job, and this is just a glimpse from that interview.
Do you feel that Israel is on the side here of righteousness? Look, ultimately, there's always a good versus evil battle going on. Yeah. A lot of folks see Israel as the bad guy here, obviously, especially younger, not just progressives, younger conservatives, younger evangelicals. Sure. So how do you see Israel in this in terms of being on the right side here or the wrong side?
Yeah, I think it's important to say, look, Israel's been a great partner through this, and we've got a lot of shared interests. If you go back to the early 2000s, when we were first confronting the Islamist radicalism and terrorism problem, obviously we actually had some very important Gulf allies, but the Israelis have been important partners. And then even going back before that, there were other things that we were working on together. What I think is also true is that sometimes the United States and Israel are going to have disagreements. Mm-hmm. And I think that what some people say is, well, because the United States and Israel have disagreements, somehow Israel's bad, the United States is good, or vice versa. Sometimes you see people in Israel, even after all the president of the United States has done for that region, they're attacking the president because, they don't like this deal, even though a lot of them don't know what's in the deal. Mm-hmm. I think that what is true here is if you go back to, Eisenhower and General Montgomery in World War II, people can work together, have shared interests, but also have disagreements from time to time. I really feel like, David, when the people of Israel get to know this deal and hopefully trust what the president is able to accomplish for the region, they're going to see that this is good for the people of Israel. It's a great country, amazing people. We have a lot of friends who live there. It's going to be good for the people of Israel. It's going to be good for the whole region.
But Israel wants to make sure that they don't want to get out of southern Lebanon, obviously. And we're hearing that Iran says there's not going to be any deal if Israel doesn't get out of southern Lebanon.
So first of all, the deal doesn't talk about Israel getting out of southern Lebanon or not. But I actually think that Israel would love to get out of southern Lebanon so long as the Hezbollah threat was gone.
For sure.
What they're saying is they're not going to get out of southern Lebanon until they can protect their people. Yeah. We make very clear, Israel is allowed the right of self-defense. Nobody's going to tell another government they're not allowed to defend their people. But we are going to work aggressively, diplomatically on this peace process to make the people of Lebanon want sovereignty and safety. The people of Israel want sovereignty and safety. That's part of the work of diplomacy. And frankly, because the Iranian regime is so weak, we've got a better opportunity to work on that problem successfully than we've had in a very long time.
Okay, that's on CBN News, David Brody there with Vice President Vance. And I find it very interesting because there have been several occasions in which Israel has been told to stand down by the United States. And so there is definitely a rift that is there at this time. We need to be praying about that, friends. And certainly we want to be those that are not going to go against, we remember that those who bless Israel will be blessed, those who curse Israel will be cursed. And we have seen the demise of those who have brought cursing to Israel. On just a few other fronts here pertaining to this war, this from the Washington Times, the U.S. Air Force has lost nearly one-third of the available fleet of critical Reaper drones in the Middle East conflicts since the start of the Trump administration, including more than 24 in the Iran war. There's no active production line to build more, nor has the Pentagon and Congress produced a funded plan to replace them, said congressional military and defense industry officials. The Reaper is just one of the broader losses in the Air Force, also having lost 4 F-15E Strike Eagle fighter jets, F-35, 7 KC-135 refueling tankers are among those lost. Newsmax reporting the Department of War is reportedly seeking $80 billion to cover costs associated with the Iran conflict and other unrelated expenses, according to the Wall Street Journal. And let's see. Also, we find that the Washington Times reporting that President Trump has invoked the Cold War-era Defense Production Act to spur the production of more munitions. There was a memo going out from Pete Hegseth on June the 11th, made public this week that Mr. Trump said it was necessary to invoke this 1950 law. Well, friends, when we come back from the break, we'll hit another topic today that's dealing with what's all going on during this month of June, so-called Pride Month. Back in a minute here on Crosstalk.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, scientist and creation researcher with the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, when did the mammoths die?
Chris, the mammoths were thought to have died out about 10,000 years ago. And although evolutionists have admitted that early man must have seen the mammoths, more recent evidence has caused them much consternation. In the tomb of one of the pharaohs in Egypt is a drawing of men carrying ivory tusk on their shoulders. Next to them is an animal that sure looks like a mammoth, with hairy skin and a domed head, just like we see in mammoth fossils. And why not? Mammoths are a variety of the elephant kind, and 2 of them were on board Noah's Ark. Certainly humans knew of them, and from the earliest times have made use of their ivory. Chris, it's the back to Genesis view of history which makes sense out of the evidence.
To equip yourself with facts that support your faith, visit us on the web at www.icr.org. That's www.icr.org.
News Roundup and Commentary program today on Crosstalk, and we thank you for joining us for the broadcast today. Perilous times? Well, we'll let you decide that, friends, as you observe what's taking place. And troubling stories coming out this month, a huge emphasis on LGBTSIN. There's from Todd Starnes, a family-owned Minnesota bakery has been hit with vile threats, including calls for the owners to die and a threat that their business would burn down after choosing to celebrate not Pride Month, but Nuclear Family Month during this month of June. Carl's Bakery launched a month-long promotion honoring what it called the nuclear family. Valley News Live reported that the bakery said it wanted to focus on what we believe both nature's law and nature's God reveal as the primary building block for any great society, the nuclear family. He and his wife have 9 children. They also run a small livestock farm where they sell eggs and meats to community members. He told Todd Starnes that the bakery defines the nuclear family as one man, one woman, covenanted in marriage and receiving children into their home gladly. He said the specials include free coffee for married couples, a discount for parents who bring in their children, and free donuts for those who bring in their parents. The Christian Post reported that the Streblow, a husband and father of 9, said the promotion was meant to celebrate the beauty of God's design and the beauty of God's declared word. Well, friends, there have been many, many threats to burn down the place. He's had profanity-laced messages and phone calls. He has had to shut down his Google and Facebook review pages because they were being flooded with what he called mountains of slander. Critics accuse the bakery of being exclusionary. He said, though he and his family are not backing down, he said that we serve a sovereign God. This war has already been won, but we're just fighting skirmishes. He said the support from Christians across the country have been overwhelming. Coming from the Epoch Times, the Trump administration and several states on June 17th signed the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, a global physician group that promotes child transgender surgeries and hormonal treatments to children. They have sued this organization, the Trump administration has, in a complaint filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas, the FTC. And the state said that the organization's guidance on gender transition surgeries, which does not mention any minimum ages, is not based on medical evidence. The AG of Texas, Ken Paxton, said any group that illegally promotes irreversible, life-altering transitioning procedures to kids as safe and necessary will face the full force of the law for harming children. Newsmax.com reporting the Department of Veterans Affairs is eliminating gender identity initiatives across its healthcare service and redesignating LGBTQ plus veteran care coordinators as general care coordinators under a new directive intended to comply with President Trump's executive orders on diversity programs and gender policy. The Undersecretary for Health, John Bartum, ordered the agency to align with the president's executive orders. Here is a gross story out of Colorado. Todd Starnes says that a Colorado public school teacher was fired after students reported that she pressured students of the same sex to kiss during graded French language skits. Jennifer Hanka, 50-year-old French language and culture teacher at Northeast Early College in Denver, was dismissed from the Denver Public Schools. The vote was unanimous 7-0, had worked for the district for some 8 years and had 24 years of teaching experience, but she was terminated for incompetence and neglect of duty. Students began complaining during the 2023-24 school year. She'd have these class skits, and students were selected for kissing scenes, but were always of the same sex. And they also, one student said she refused to participate. She received a 0 on the assignment. A separate student walked out of class. One student interviewed testified that she always selected girls in these skits, despite being a 50-50 split with girls and boys, but mandating for girls to kiss other girls and grade accordingly. Let's see, also in schools, this one is the University of Colorado in Boulder. This is a WND.com article. One of the nation's best-known party schools. There are some really important facts for students to learn, and one of those is they have to learn all 19 pride flags and what they mean. There's the original pride flag from, the inspiration of Harvey Milk. There's the rainbow, the flag that includes communities of color. The one recognizes progress for trans and intersex and brown and black. There's another one promoting transgenderism. Non-binary, there's a flag for that. Two-spirit, of course. Gender fluid, there's got a flag for that. And bisexual, pansexual, intersex, and polyamory, and more. A report from Campus Reform explains the Boulder School instructs students on the flags and their significance at a Center for Cultural Connections and Community. Controversy in Major League Baseball. FoxNews.com has this story. Late last week, the San Francisco Giants hosted their Pride Night with the team wearing hats with a rainbow-colored Giants logo. Several Giants pitchers, in a statement of their faith, wrote Bible verse designations on their hats. One starting pitcher, Landon Roop, addressed his reasoning after the game, and I believe a caller mentioned this last Friday, saying that the verse is about representing God's covenant. It's just about God's covenant and the promise that he makes to us that, his faithfulness and his mercy. He had written the verses of Genesis 9:12 through 16 that talks about God establishing that bow, the rainbow, in the sky. Fox News points out that it's interesting that the league chose to issue this warning because the pitcher had been warned now by Major League Baseball. But during the 2025 World Series in Los Angeles Dodgers and Toronto Blue Jays, players on both sides had written number 51 on their cap in honor of support for a Dodgers reliever and his wife who had lost a newborn baby. We also saw in 2021 a couple of players wrote SOS Cuba on their hats during the All-Star game that year. Were they warned? Very interesting story there coming out. And then this week, the York Revolution. This is a story from townhall.com. The York Revolution forfeited their minor league Pride Night game after their players refused to wear jerseys, that had rainbow logos stitched on the sleeves. The organization placed the entire blame on its players in a statement posted to its website. But hats off to this minor league team. The team as a whole evidently refused to put on the Pride Night jerseys for this game. From townhall.com, California is asking some people to prove that they're gay so that companies can qualify for certain government contracts. Why? Because if they are set-asides for gay-owned businesses, someone might simply claim to be bisexual and get the contract. So the state has a checklist to make sure recipients of gay set-asides are gay enough, the story says from townhall.com. And some of the requirements for the applicants, they have to have proof of qualifying owner's LGBT status, like a copy of valid municipal or state license, certificate of marriage, a civil union or domestic partnership, or a copy of a petition for same-sex partner hospital visitation rights, or joint living arrangements paperwork, or one letter from a recognized LGBT organization attesting to their LGBT status, or a physician carry letter, evidence of gender reassignment surgery, or a physician or attorney letter representing or establishing LGBT status of owners, or a legal petition for a name or gender change. Unbelievable having this insane prove your homosexual law in California. LifeSite, and that is to get that, the special the special gift, the award that is given here to receive, monetary benefits, contracts, that would be. LifeSiteNews.com, New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani has pledged $15 million in taxpayer funds to so-called gender-affirming care. In recognition of Pride Month, he announced that the initiative is an effort to bridge the gap created by recent cuts to funding for gender transitions. The recent financial pledge follows his campaign promise to make New York City an LGBTQ plus sanctuary. The Daily Caller reporting out of Cicero North Syracuse High School in New York. A biological male athlete who identifies as transgender has won the girls' shot put in the state championship. Isn't that a huge surprise? The individual, biological boy, claimed at the girls' Class A shot put championship Sunday, doing so at the NYSPHSAA double track and field championship, and out through a girl, a biological girl. At the current moment, athletes are allowed by New York State to participate based on gender identity instead of biological sex. WND.com says in Brazil, one jurist has ordered 2 homeschooling parents to jail for 50 days for failing to teach their daughters the judge's version of gender education. Really? They're forcing this on the parents. The parents now have convictions for, listen to this, intellectual neglect, issued by the unidentified Brazilian judge. That's according to a report from Alliance Defending Freedom International. Yes, in Brazil, ordering homeschool parents 50 days in jail for what he calls intellectual neglect. LifeSiteNews.com, a homosexual who sexually and physically abused and murdered the baby boy he adopted with his partner, was jailed for life without parole yesterday. English high school teacher Jamie Varley convicted on Monday of murder, 5 counts of cruelty to a child, sexual assault of a child, multiple accounts of related to child abuse materials, along with other charges. His partner, his homosexual partner, found guilty of 2 counts of child cruelty, the sexual assault of a child, and causing or allowing the death of a child. Karen Tongi of the Crown Prosecution Service called the case one of the most shocking and horrific cases I have ever dealt with in my career. The child was 9 months old when he was adopted by the homosexual couple in Blackpool and died only 4 months later. Okay, let's hit another story here today. I guess this one is also out of New York. And let's see, this is from the Daily Wire. A town in upstate New York voted to remove the LGBT pride flag earlier this month, sparking outrage, protest, and an act of vandalism. For the first time in the town's history, Webster Town Supervisor had on June 1st raised the so-called pride flag at the town hall, issued a Pride Month proclamation. There was comment coming from the residents, and those elected to the town board voted to effectively remove the pride flag by adopting a policy that limits flags to the U.S. flag and New York state flags, and by June 5th, that pride flag was removed. At the removal, protesters gathered outside the town hall. Some LGBT activists screamed and yelled about the flag removal. And let me just air just one brief clip coming from there.
Before the COVID pandemic, Dr.
I'll tell you
Fauci...
what, we're going to get to that clip in the next segment. Here we go.
I have nearly died 5 times in the last month. I am a screaming leftist because disability has made me either leftist or dead.
Children will kill themselves because of this. Because of lowering the pride flag, children will kill themselves as a result. Sadly, many young people have taken their lives suicidally because of the confusion, the gender confusion happening in their lives and just not being able to handle it. Also, campus reform found 67% of colleges and universities across America require diversity, equity, and inclusion courses for students to graduate. Well, friends, coming up, in California, they're talking about letting kids divorce their parents. Back in a minute here on Crosstalk.
Year after year, generation after generation, we Americans enjoy the right and opportunity to let our voices be heard through the election of our governing officials. America's republic stands alone among nations. Our founders pledged their life, their fortune, and their sacred honor in the establishment of this nation. Our founding documents have guided this nation and are the substance by which today's laws are judged. Do you own a copy of the Constitution? We expect our leaders and judges to follow it. But do we even know what it says? In a handy pocket-sized edition, VCY is making available a booklet containing the U.S. Constitution, all 27 amendments, and the Declaration of Independence. One copy is available for a donation of just $3, 5 copies for $12, or 10 copies for $20 to VCY America. Call 1-800-729-9829.
You know, friends, we're living in a time when wrong is right and right is wrong. That which is immoral is declared to be moral, and that which is moral is immoral. We see down is up and up is down. It's a very backward society, and it's indicative of a nation and as a society that has turned its back on God, where there seems to be no moral absolutes in their way of thinking. But certainly the Bible is absolute, and we know that His Word is truth. Sanctify them through Thy truth. Thy Word is truth, we're told in the Gospel of John. And so, therefore, when we say there is no truth, or we say everything is just subjective, we see morality in great decline, not only in our nation, but around the world as well. The story from Breitbart is really troubling. Democrats in California are pushing a bill that would allow minor children to divorce their parents. The bill is AB 1967, allows any minor residing in any residential facility to file a legal application against their parents without cause or evidence of harm, reports the Post-Millennial. Residential facilities include drug rehab programs, boarding schools, wilderness therapy programs, faith-based residential programs, and runaway shelters. A child in a therapeutic setting can use this legislation to move into a home or institution that will affirm their transgender identity. California welfare laws require children under state control to be affirmed in their gender identity, housed in accordance with their identity and not sex, and given access to sex-rejecting interventions. On top of this bill is being used in aid to the left's primary goal, that is the destruction of normal families. The Post-Millennial also correctly points out that it will become a cash cow for those facilities, which will get paid per resident, allowing kids, if this legislation passes, to actually divorce their parents. LifeSiteNews.com reports a final attempt to stop Canada bill, the C9, was defeated, meaning that this bill that threatens to criminalize quoting parts of the Bible, including on homosexuality, has officially passed California's parliament and will soon become law. Wednesday, June 17th, a majority of members of the parliament voted down an attempt by Conservative MP Andrew Lawton to stop Bill C9 once and for all. One Conservative called the official passage of this bill a dark day for Canada and religious freedom, an assault on faith. Well, on the bright side, LifeSiteNews.com reports that the Ohio legislature has approved legislation that would require public schools to explicitly teach children to mature and marry before having children, in what lawmakers are calling a needed step to prepare young people for success in life. What a novel idea, but thank you, politicians, for putting that forth. Something came down last night that I thought you'd really be interested in hearing. I started playing this clip inadvertently just a moment ago, but this is an interesting story that was on the Western Journal about outgoing Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard released a trove of documents last night that she said proved Dr. Anthony Fauci suppressed the COVID lab leak theory and later lied to Congress about it. On her final day on the job, she posted a video on X announcing the release. Here's what she said.
COVID pandemic. Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives. Now, these documents expose Fauci's direct role in influencing and manipulating IC assessments on COVID-19 and how Fauci lied to Congress in 2024 when under oath he denied knowledge of or participation in discussions with intelligence officials about viral research. We also received testimony from multiple intelligence community whistleblowers who reported retaliation for challenging the intelligence community's manipulation of intelligence on the virus's origins, once again revealing a clear pattern of suppressing dissent, silencing critics, and burying the truth. Dr. Fauci's close relationships with the intelligence community enabled him to assume three key roles that shield him from scrutiny. First, Dr. Fauci funded dangerous gain-of-function coronavirus research linked to Big Pharma and their pursuit of universal vaccines worth trillions of dollars. Second, Dr. Fauci was the behind-the-scenes advisor who, alongside his hand-picked so-called experts, pushed the intelligence community to endorse a natural animal origin to hide his dangerous gain-of-function research that he funded using taxpayer dollars, all of this in a deliberate attempt to cover up the truth and shift the blame and attention away from Fauci's own actions. Third, Dr. Fauci became the nation's pandemic pundit, and he publicly pushed lies, disinformation, and censorship using every platform available. Now, according to hundreds of reviewed emails, which are included in this release, the intelligence community almost always incorporated Fauci's recommendations. He promoted a fraudulent paper whose publication he helped prompt as legitimate information for intelligence community consideration. Senior analysts praised Dr. Fauci not as a policymaker, but as what they called an unbiased guide to the real coronavirus experts, while deliberately ignoring experts who might dissent from Fauci's narratives. Now, Fauci didn't stop there. He blatantly lied to Congress under oath during his 2024 testimony to the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, denying that he ever spoke to any intelligence agency about COVID. Now, the correspondence I'm releasing today directly contradicts his sworn testimony. Now, we received statements from multiple whistleblowers revealing that the intelligence analysts who dared to challenge Dr. Fauci's COVID origin conclusions faced threats of retaliation, marginalization, and many suffered career setbacks. For example, a contractor was terminated just days after coming forward to ODNI as a whistleblower. Another example, those who advocated for the lab leak hypothesis or expressed dissenting views were reminded by their managers that leadership would determine which analysts would be promoted and which would not. The message was clear: go along or be punished. Now, senior leaders also sought to undermine whistleblowers by removing anonymity, which is required in the whistleblower process, as they made their complaints, and also insisting that their managers or attorneys be present during ODNI meetings where these whistleblowers were coming forward with their testimony, obviously creating an atmosphere of intimidation. The COVID pandemic caused tremendous hardship and pain for millions of our fellow Americans and countless people around the world. Now, after years of lies and censorship and cover-ups, the American people deserve transparency, truth, and accountability. The tactics that were used to hide the truth are straight from the deep state playbook. Politicized, self-serving leaders like Dr. Fauci covered up their own wrongdoing and abuses of power, manipulated intelligence, lied to Congress, and undermined a duly elected president by restricting his access to the vital facts he needed to keep the country safe. It's time you know the truth.
Wow, what a bombshell. And this issued on her final day on the job. Tulsi Gabbard, the outgoing director of national intelligence, releasing this, just a trove of documents last night. And she said this proved Dr. Anthony Fauci suppressed the COVID lab leak theory and later lied to Congress about it. Now, keep in mind, former President Joe Biden issued a preemptive pardon to Fauci the day before he left office. I don't recall if that was one of the auto pen signatures or not. From FoxNews.com, Abraham Alvarez, identified in federal court documents as the alleged ringleader of a plot to carry out a mass casualty event at the UFC White House event June 14th. Well, it's been found he's an illegal immigrant from Mexico who overstayed his visa, according to Homeland Security information obtained by Fox News Digital. 5 co-conspirators were arrested so far this month for allegedly planning with others to use drones equipped with explosives to force an evacuation from the White House this past Sunday. And in the ensuing chaos, a team of snipers was allegedly set to open fire on the crowds. Federal investigators claim Alvarez was responsible for planning, organizing, and directing this planned attack. Also, we have from townhall.com, the Los Angeles City Council voted Wednesday to advance a measure that would allow non-citizens to vote in citywide and Los Angeles Unified School District school board elections. It passed 10-5, now expected to appear on the November ballot, where city residents will have the final say. Also, we have from the Daily Caller, Senate Majority Leader John Thune has admitted during a closed-door GOP lunch Wednesday that some Republican senators oppose President Donald Trump so strongly that they will never vote for the Save America Act, regardless of the legislation's merits. That's according to several sources familiar with the matter. The discussion quickly escalated into a heated exchange between Republican Utah Senator Mike Lee, the bill's chief sponsor, and several of his GOP colleagues. John Thune admitting some Senate Republicans they hate the president so much to support the Save America Act. A troubling story from the Christian Post: an Oklahoma teenage girl left brain dead after participating in a viral social media challenge wanted to be TikTok famous, according to her father, who said she will now have a chance to save lives through the donation of her organs. Leah Presson, age 15, participated in what is known as the Benadryl Challenge, where it involves individuals recording themselves trying to stay awake and get high by downing excessive amounts of the allergy medication. Her father said that she was a great person. It hurts to see that my daughter is now lying lifeless because of some challenge that couldn't be stopped. The father said that his daughter had participated in the Benadryl Challenge for the first time around Christmas and at least 4 other times afterward. LifeSiteNews.com, YouTuber Jesse Ridgway said he and his wife hope for a, quote, clean pregnancy upon their next attempt to conceive a child after having extinguished the life of their baby due to a Down syndrome diagnosis. Ridgway doubled down on his decision, saying, "We stand by it. No amount of hate and crazy death threats or calling me a murderer is going to make me change my mind." He said, "Abortion is legal. We're in the state of New Jersey, and you're within your right to do that. At the end of the day, as long as you can live with yourself and you're happy with the decisions that you're making and the intention is pure," he said, "you'll be okay." Really? Friends, this is a temporal. All of us will stand before a judge in eternity. We're going to take a quick break, and let's open our phone lines if you'd like to comment on these or other current event stories today. Our telephone number to Crosstalk is 1-800-733-9829. That's 1-800-733-9829. We'll be back in 1 minute. This is Crosstalk. Again, our number, 800-733-9829.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brennan House. Our website's worldviewradio.com. Well, my friends, President Donald Trump came out this week declaring at the G7 that he's not happy with Israel and how they have handled the conflict with Hezbollah in Lebanon. And then he also praised the new leadership, he said, of Iran, saying that they're not radicals. My friends, there is not a moderate Islam or a radical Islam. There is just Islam. Many in Israel that we're hearing from, including our reporter on the ground in Israel, are saying that many Israelis feel betrayed. They feel like the world is turning on them. And the Bible says all the world, all the nations of the world will turn against Israel. Now it seems as though the United States of America is doing that in the quest for the Abraham Accords. Well, let me tell you, my friends, I don't believe peace is coming to the Middle East. I don't believe a deal will actually happen in practice, maybe on paper. And I believe this is setting the stage for the leader that will confirm a peace deal, the Antichrist.
You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America, and we understand from LifeSiteNews.com that since President Trump took office here in the second term, nearly 60 Planned Parenthood facilities have shut down. That's actually since January of 2025. And also to that end, just saw a story here as well that from the Trump administration, very interesting story and I'm not finding it here right now. Oh, here it is from LifeSiteNews.com. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services under the Trump administration has issued new funding guidelines for federal grants pertaining to frozen embryo adoption, recognizing them as preborn children to be adopted into loving homes rather than destroyed for medical experimentation. Taking your calls here today on Crosstalk, 800-733-9829. Our friend Alice in Arkansas. Hi, Alice, you're on the air.
Oh, thank you so much for taking my call. My heart is just so broken. We're just going farther and farther away from God. Yeah. People are doing what's right in their own eyes. What you have said certainly brings to truth that the heart is desperately wicked. Without Christ, having a born-again experience, people getting their sins under the blood of Jesus, and the desire of sin to be out of the heart. I thank God that that's out of my heart. I have no desire to sin. I thank God I'm not bragging about me, but I can submit myself to God. And my greatest pleasure can be to do His good, acceptable, and perfect will. Yeah. How horrible about people having to prove that they're gay. What about Sodom and Gomorrah? Yeah. The days of Lot. Oh, God's judgment is going to fall on America if we don't repent and turn around. Truly, God help us.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Alice. Thank you for your call here today. Ryan is calling from Dodgeville, Wisconsin. Ryan, you're on the air. Hello, Ryan, turn your radio down, please. Due to the delay, you are on the air. Okay. I tell you what, Ryan is tuned into his radio there. Our number to Crosstalk, 800-733-9829. The EPA told the Daily Caller News Foundation it is reviewing comments from 14 attorney generals urging the agency to classify mifepristone as a water contaminant. For over a year, lawmakers and others have raised concerns over the abortion pill's potential risk of harming the general population's fertility. Indeed, officials warning that there's something in the water and it may be causing infertility. Also, we have this story here from Alabama, LifeSiteNews.com. The Alabama Attorney General, Steve Marshall, has sent cease and desist letters to 6 companies offering to ship abortion-inducing drugs into Alabama, warning them that they are breaking the law. If they do not halt their activities, they face potential punishment up to $2,000 for each violation. Okay, let's go to Don in New Mexico. Hi, Don, you're on the air.
Yes, I'm 80 and a half years old. I'm a longtime activist on many concerns. As far as I know, I'm the most well-known openly gay man in this city, and I am a sincere atheist. I was a very sincere Christian preacher in the 1960s in Virginia and in Illinois, but a long, long, long journey to where I am now as a sincere atheist. Well, and my main reason is millions of people, hundreds of millions, for thousands of years have beg God desperately for help from starvation, from slavery, fires, floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, family violence. From
do you know why? Do you know why, Don? Why all of that has happened?
Well, and so why would I expect God to hear and help me? Am I better than all those hundreds of millions of people?
You know, Don, why all of that has happened is because of sin, because of man's rebellion against God.
That's crazy.
No, it's not crazy. It's truth.
Crap.
It's truth. It's truth according to the Scriptures here, Don, that man in his evilness turned his back on God, and as a result, sin entered into the world through disobedience, and that disobedience came in by one man. But the good news, Don, is that one man, Jesus Christ, came into this world. God commendeth his love toward us, that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So, Don, whereby sin came into the world through disobedience, through the obedience of Jesus Christ, we can have everlasting life.
What millions sadly are believing, but I do not believe it.
Well, it doesn't change the truth of it, though, Don, and that's
well,
the important
ridiculous.
aspect.
Ridiculous.
Well, it is not worthy of ridicule, but it's worthy of our need to put our trust and faith in Jesus Christ for salvation, because there's no salvation apart from His name, Don.
Well, we strongly disagree.
We do, but please read the truth of the Scriptures, Don. As I said earlier, sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth, and there is truth. That is, God's word is truth. And right now, I plead with you, my friend, that you're on the pathway to destruction, and that you need to turn to Jesus Christ. Thank you so much for your call, friends. Pray for Don. Let's go to Ryan in Dodgeville. Ryan, you're on the air.
Well, hello. Thank you for taking my call. I feel sorry for this atheist. We have to pray for his salvation. Dr. Fauci killed millions of people worldwide. This guy should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Just by the pardon that Joe Biden gave him, that was an admission of guilt. He pardoned him because he knew he was guilty, period. Enough said. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your call. Friends, we are out of time on the program today. We want to certainly thank you for tuning in today and all this week on Crosstalk. A number of issues that have come up. Lord willing, on Monday, we'll be dealing with the issue of artificial intelligence, some of the matters going on there, but we'll keep our pulse as well on what's going on in this world. But we thank you for tuning in, and be praying, as we mentioned, for Don. He's the man that needs Jesus Christ. And any heart that has not placed their trust in Jesus also needs him as Savior. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. There's a path of two paths before us, one that leads to everlasting life, one to everlasting destruction. Today is Friday. The Lord's Day is coming. Trust you'll be in a Bible-believing, Bible-teaching local church. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.